Have you ever wondered, what would a billionaire like Elon Musk do if he had to live as a homeless person? In an unprecedented bold move, Elon decided to disguise himself as a homeless individual, embarking on a challenging journey to uncover the truth about how the most vulnerable are treated in the modern financial system. What he experienced not only changed him profoundly, but also served as a major lesson for the entire world. Get ready to dive into a dramatic, emotional, and utterly surprising story, a tale that will keep you glued to the screen until the very last moment. The journey of life stories wouldn't be complete without your support. Hit the subscribe button to give me more motivation to bring you even more fascinating stories. Thank you all. Elon Musk, the billionaire renowned for his bold and ambitious ideas, has consistently amazed the world with his ability to turn the seemingly impossible into reality. From conquering space with SpaceX, revolutionizing the automobile industry with Tesla, to his aspiration to connect the human brain with Neuralink, Elon has continuously pushed the boundaries of innovation. But this time, he has a different plan, one that is more humanitarian than any of his previous projects. During a strategic meeting at SpaceX, Elon introduced the concept of a unique banking model. This bank wouldn't just serve traditional customers, but would also cater to vulnerable groups, including the homeless and those struggling to access financial services. We always talk about changing the world, but most of us forget about those who need help the most, he said, his eyes lighting up as he presented the idea. If we can create a bank where even those who have nothing feel welcome, we're truly changing the game. However, not everyone on the team was convinced. Some voiced concerns about the feasibility of this bank serving groups like the homeless, who often lack collateral, identification, and are challenging to assess for credit risk. Questions arose repeatedly. Would they even use this service? How can we truly understand their needs without concrete data? The objections did not deter Elon. Instead, he made an unexpected decision. If we don't understand them, then I'll experience it myself. I'll become homeless. The room fell silent. No one could believe that the richest man in the world would abandon his luxurious life to step into the harsh reality of the homeless. But Elon wasn't joking. He wanted to prove that one doesn't need to live in a glittering tower to grasp society's problems. The plan was quickly set in motion. Elon would disguise himself as a homeless person, experiencing life on the streets and directly visiting his own bank as an ordinary customer. No security team would accompany him, and no one would be informed of his arrival. Elon had a single mission: to understand the reality that the most vulnerable face every day. Before beginning, Elon spent several days preparing. He read articles and watched documentaries about the lives of homeless people, learning how they manage to survive and how they are treated by society. He even hired a professional makeup artist to transform him into a middle-aged man with a weathered face, disheveled hair, and worn-out clothing. A small bag containing a few basic items, like a thin blanket, some bread, and a bit of loose change, would be his entire possession for the days ahead. We can't improve anything if we don't understand the reality, Elon told his team before leaving. The only way to create change is to confront the truth. With his characteristic determination and curiosity, Elon stepped out of the doors of his luxurious mansion and into a world he had never experienced. He was no longer Elon Musk, the billionaire at the helm of a tech empire, but now a homeless man facing the greatest challenge of his life. Elon rented a small, dilapidated apartment in the outskirts of the city, a place where his presence wouldn't attract much attention. The room was barely 10 square meters, furnished with a worn-out bed, a broken stove, and a window patched with tape to cover its cracks. He purchased a few pieces of clothing from a thrift store, a frayed jacket, muddy shoes, and a faded cap to conceal his usually neat hair. His face was expertly disguised with tanned, weathered skin, weary wrinkles, and eyes reflecting hardship. From a man often seen in sharp, tailored suits, Elon now looked indistinguishable from someone who had spent years living on the streets. He spent his time walking through the streets, blending into the crowd, observing how the homeless interacted with one another and with passers-by. He realized that to avoid suspicion, he needed to change his movements, speech, and gestures as well. Elon learned to keep his gaze averted, walk slowly, and draw as little attention as possible, behaviors that homeless individuals often adopt to avoid unnecessary trouble. During his day's wandering, Elon met Jack, a genuinely homeless man in his 50s with a scruffy beard and a rare, hearty smile that stood out among those in similar circumstances. Jack struck up a conversation with Elon after noticing him struggling to find a spot to sit on the sidewalk near a park. "First time out here?" Jack asked, his voice hoarse but tinged with humor. Elon hesitated for a moment but quickly recognized this as an opportunity to learn. He nodded, trying to respond as naturally as possible. "Yeah, I just got here. I don't really know what to do." Jack burst into laughter, without a hint of suspicion. "Don't worry. Everyone's confused their first time out. But hey, don't sit here too long. The cops like to chase us out of the park." Jack led Elon to an area behind an abandoned building, where a few other homeless individuals were gathered. He introduced Elon as a new face. The people there were cautious, offering only brief greetings before returning to their tasks, sorting leftover food from plastic bags or fixing their makeshift sleeping spots with cardboard. However, thanks to Jack's friendliness, Elon was quickly accepted. During conversations with Jack, Elon quietly absorbed every detail about street life. Jack shared tips about the best places to find free food, the unspoken rules for avoiding conflict with other groups, and how to deal with police or security guards. Jack also taught Elon the art of asking for help without making others uncomfortable. Never beg too much. You have to know when to step back. Jack's advice was invaluable. Elon realized that the world of the homeless was not just about the physical harshness of their environment, but also a complex social network with its own rules. All of this helped Elon not only adapt but also internalize a painful truth. The lack they experienced wasn't just material. It was also the absence of recognition and respect. Before parting, Jack handed Elon a thicker jacket he had found in a dumpster. "You'll need this when it gets cold. Don't refuse it. Out here, we help each other survive. And no one needs to feel ashamed of that." Elon took the jacket, speechless. In that moment, he realized that these people living on the margins of society hadn't lost their compassion. On the contrary, they understood the meaning of sharing better than anyone else. And that was the first lesson Elon carried forward as he continued his journey. After a few days of acclimating to street life, Elon decided to move on to the next step in his plan, testing the bank developed by SpaceX. He had prepared meticulously, not just in appearance, but with a fictional backstory as well. Posing as a man who had previously worked manual labor but lost his job due to an injury, Elon created a narrative where he was trying to restart his life with nothing but a strong will and a desire for help. Elon arrived at a small branch of the bank, located in the city center. He carried an old shoulder bag and a few fake documents prepared by his team, including a torn ID card and an incomplete job application. Everything was designed to resemble the scant belongings of a homeless individual. The automatic doors slid open, revealing a bright, modern interior with white LED lights and gleaming glass panels. Despite its modernity, the space immediately felt alien to Elon in his role as a homeless man. Other customers, dressed smartly, glanced at him with curious, uneasy looks. A few even stepped back slightly, clearly uncomfortable with his presence. Elon approached the teller counter and waited. A middle-aged female employee glanced up, her expression shifting instantly from indifference to annoyance. "What do you need?" she asked curtly. I'd like to open an account," Elon replied, trying to maintain a look of confusion yet persistence. "I need to start over, if possible. I'd also like to ask about taking out a small loan to find a place to stay and secure a job." The teller raised an eyebrow. "Do you have all the necessary documents? Pay stubs? Utility bills? Or at least a fixed address?" she asked briskly, making it clear she didn't want to waste her time. Elon shook his head. "I don't have all of that. I've just been through a rough time, but I promise, if given the chance, I'll pay everything back." His answer made the teller laugh, not out of humor, but with a mocking edge. "We can't help you if you don't meet the basic requirements. This isn't a charity." Elon stepped away from the counter, feeling a wave of disdain directed at him. He sat on a nearby chair, doing his best to keep his emotions in check. However, the cold stares and dismissive attitude from the bank employee made one thing painfully clear. If he were truly homeless, the journey to turn his life around would be far harder than he had imagined. A few other employees in the bank glanced at him, but none approached to check on him or offer assistance. A security guard near the main entrance even eyed him suspiciously, as if just waiting for an excuse to ask him to leave. As Elon was considering his next move, a gentle voice came from behind. "Hello, sir. Can I help you with something?" Elon turned around to see a young employee, about 25 years old, with a bright face and a sincere smile. The name tag on his chest read Ryan. Elon immediately sensed a difference in this approach. Ryan sat down next to him, showing no sign of discomfort or arrogance. "You want to open an account, right? Can you tell me a little about your situation?" he asked. Elon shared the story he had prepared, emphasizing that all he needed was an opportunity to escape his current circumstances. Ryan listened intently, never interrupting. Then, he began to explain what the bank could and couldn't do. "I'll do my best to help you," Ryan said, his eyes filled with determination. "Our bank does have some policies for people in difficult situations, but to get a loan, you'll need to provide additional information. I know that's not easy, but I'll try to file a special approval request for you." Ryan led Elon to another service desk, where he began processing the necessary information. However, when Elon's loan application reached the management level, problems arose immediately. A stern-looking middle-aged woman approached, reviewed Elon's file, and shook her head. "No fixed address, no collateral, no credit history. We can't approve this loan," she said bluntly. Ryan tried to persuade her. "But ma'am, this is a special case. He's trying to turn his life around. If we don't help him, who will?" "Policy is policy," the manager replied, leaving no room for compromise. She glanced at Elon and added, "We can't take risks on people like this." That last statement felt like a knife to Elon's heart. Though this was only an experiment, he deeply felt the humiliation that a genuinely homeless person would endure, judged and dismissed without any chance to prove their worth. Ryan, visibly disappointed, still tried to console him. "I'm sorry, sir," Ryan said softly. "I did my best, but I promise I'll try to think of a way to help you." Leaving the bank, Elon stepped onto the crowded streets, his mind racing with thoughts. He realized that the barriers faced by the homeless weren't just the result of their circumstances, but also stemmed from the very system designed to support them. Bureaucracy, lack of empathy, and deeply ingrained biases had turned people like Jack, or the role Elon himself was playing, into invisible individuals in the eyes of society. However, Ryan's kindness was a bright spot amid the bleak experiences. It served as a reminder that, even in a rigid and inflexible system, there are always people willing to break the mold to help others. And Elon knew that to create real change, he would have to find a way to transform both the system and people's mindsets. After being denied the loan and receiving Ryan's apologetic yet helpless response, Elon didn't leave the bank immediately. Instead, he decided to remain in the waiting area, observing and engaging with other customers to gain a deeper understanding of their experiences. With his appearance as a homeless man, he noticed that his presence made some people uncomfortable, but he patiently and tactfully tried to start conversations. The first person Elon approached was a young woman, around 30 years old, with a tired face and tense eyes. She was holding an infant in her arms while simultaneously trying to organize a stack of papers. Elon sat one seat away from her, waiting a few minutes before speaking. "Are you okay? You seem busy," he asked gently. The woman glanced at him, momentarily surprised, but quickly relaxed. "I'm just trying to get my loan application sorted," she replied in a hoarse voice. "This is my third time here, and every time, they tell me I'm missing something. At this point, I don't even know what I'm missing anymore." Elon frowned slightly. "Didn't they explain clearly?" She shook her head, the disappointment evident on her face. "They said I need to provide more proof of income, but I work part-time and don't have a formal employment contract." I brought my electricity bills, but they told me that wasn't enough. I just want a small loan to fix up my apartment. It's falling apart, and I don't want my child to have to live like this." Elon listened carefully, committing every detail to memory. He realized that it wasn't just the homeless, like the persona he was embodying, who struggled with the banking system. Even ordinary workers faced unreasonable barriers. The demand for complicated paperwork and inflexible policies were pushing those who needed help the most further away from financial stability. Shortly after, Elon turned to speak with an older man wearing a thick coat and a worn wool hat. The man sat sighing, a folder of documents resting on his lap. "Is your plan going smoothly?" Elon asked. The man let out a faint laugh, but it was tinged with bitterness. "Smoothly? I'm waiting for a loan approval to pay for my wife's hospital bills. She just had to be hospitalized for a broken hip. I submitted my application over a month ago, and every time I come back, they say, 'Your paperwork is under review.'" Elon raised an eyebrow. "Have you tried asking them for the reason behind the delay?" "Yes, but the answers are always vague. One staff member even told me to be patient because they're overwhelmed. This is ridiculous. I've been paying them interest regularly for the past 20 years." This response prompted Elon to note another crucial point. It wasn't only the disadvantaged who were affected, but even long-term customers of the bank felt frustrated by the lack of transparency and delays in the system. Elon stayed a little longer, silently observing and reflecting. From the stories he had heard, he realized that the current banking system was not only devoid of empathy, but also shackled by excessive bureaucracy and rigidity. Customers like the single mother, the elderly man, and even people like Ryan, the employees who genuinely wanted to help but were constrained by policies, were all victims of a system in desperate need of reform. When Elon left the bank, he carried not only detailed notes but also a much clearer understanding of what needed to change. He knew the next step would require more than technological improvements. It would demand a shift in how people perceived and served one another. After days of immersing himself in street life and experiencing the banking system firsthand, Elon Musk knew it was time to conclude his experiment. He decided to call an urgent meeting with the bank's leadership to present his findings and challenge the system he had built, now recognizing its many shortcomings. The meeting was summoned unexpectedly, and none of the attendees could have imagined that the central figure of today's session would be the homeless man they had once dismissed. The conference room at the bank's headquarters was a luxurious space with glass walls, a long walnut table, and large screens for presentations. Senior executives and key employees, including Ryan, were present. None of them had been given specific details about the reason for the meeting, only that they were required to attend immediately. The door to the meeting room opened, and everyone in the room instinctively looked up as a man dressed in shabby clothes with a weathered face entered. A few frowned, and someone even muttered, "What is this person doing here?" However, before anyone could ask him to leave, Elon spoke. "Good morning, everyone. I think it's time to reveal my true identity." He removed the old baseball cap and peeled away some of the prosthetic makeup on his face. All eyes in the room locked onto him, shifting from initial confusion to complete shock as they realized the man standing before them was Elon Musk, the billionaire and founder of the bank. The atmosphere in the room grew tense. Some whispered among themselves, while others sat silently, unable to process what was happening. Ryan appeared frozen, his eyes wide, and he murmured softly, "No way." Elon stepped to the head of the conference table, his sharp gaze sweeping across the room. He didn't appear angry, but the seriousness in his tone commanded everyone's attention. "Over the past few days, I've lived as a homeless person. I experienced the services of the bank we created, not from the perspective of its designer, but from the viewpoint of the most vulnerable individuals. And the results I encountered were deeply disappointing." A senior executive, trying to maintain composure, spoke up. "Mr. Musk, I believe there might have been some misunderstandings in how our employees handled certain situations. If there were any errors, we will address them immediately." Elon raised his hand to cut him off. "No, this isn't about a few employees. This is a systemic problem, and I'm here to lay it all out, point by point." He continued by outlining what he had experienced. 1. Lack of empathy from staff. Elon recounted how he was treated coldly and disdainfully at the service desk. If someone like me can't receive basic respect, what must truly vulnerable people endure? 2. Complicated and inflexible processes. He highlighted the struggles of the single mother and the elderly man who were denied loans due to unrealistic documentation requirements. We are erecting meaningless barriers instead of finding ways to help. 3. Delays and lack of transparency. Elon spoke about how customers were left waiting without clear explanations, leading them to lose trust in the service. Turning to the leadership team, his gaze was filled with challenge. We built this bank with the goal of doing better for society. But what I've seen is a failure to deliver on that vision. If we don't change immediately, this bank will be no different from the traditional institutions we once criticized. He directly addressed the senior leaders. We need to do better, not for our reputation, but because of our responsibility to the community. I don't want to hear excuses. I want to see action. As the tension in the room grew heavy, Ryan, the young employee, unexpectedly stood up. Mr. Musk, I agree that there's a lot that needs to change, but I believe not everyone in this bank is doing things wrong. There are people who truly want to help. They're just constrained by rigid policies and procedures. Elon nodded, his expression softening. I agree, Ryan, and that's exactly why we need to change things at the root. I want to create a system that not only serves customers better, but also empowers employees like you to do the right thing. Elon outlined a list of immediate reform measures on the spot. 1. Simplify the loan process. Reduce unnecessary documentation requirements and develop a more flexible identification system. 2. Employee training. Implement mandatory training programs focused on communication skills and empathy, particularly for dealing with vulnerable customer groups. 3. Increase transparency. Establish mechanisms to clearly track and update customers on the status of their applications. 4. Test new policies. Create a special task force to pilot innovative solutions, such as allowing small loans without collateral. Elon concluded his speech with a powerful declaration. If we don't change, this bank will never achieve the goals we set for it. I will personally oversee this reform process, and I expect every one of you to be ready to do your part. The room fell silent for a few moments before the leaders and employees began nodding in agreement, acknowledging the validity of Elon's points. Ryan was the first to speak. We'll do everything we can to make this bank a place that truly matters. Following the intense meeting and Elon Musk's groundbreaking decisions, the bank immediately embarked on a comprehensive reform under his direct supervision. It didn't take long for the changes to start rolling out, impacting not only the bank's operations, but also transforming the mindset of its management and staff. The bank quickly introduced a series of new policies designed to serve vulnerable customer groups, those often overlooked by traditional financial systems. The loan process was simplified, and documentation requirements were made more flexible to accommodate the realities of informal workers, the homeless, and individuals facing temporary hardships. One standout initiative was the Starter Loan Program, which allowed customers to secure small loans without collateral. Approval was based on flexible criteria, such as commitments to work on community projects. Additionally, the bank began leveraging AI technology to assess risks using non-traditional data sources, rather than relying solely on credit history. The reforms extended beyond service changes, with significant investment in staff training. Courses in communication skills, empathy, and community service became mandatory parts of employee development. Staff were now encouraged to propose initiatives to improve services, transforming the bank into a more trustworthy and welcoming place for everyone. Ryan, the young employee who had assisted Elon during his undercover experience, became a symbol of positive change. His efforts, from listening to customers to boldly standing up for human values, were not only recognized by Elon, but also inspired his colleagues to embrace a more compassionate and proactive approach. Elon personally met with Ryan during an internal meeting and entrusted him with a more significant role, Director of Special Customer Services. In this new role, Ryan would oversee and advocate for policies tailored to vulnerable customer groups while setting an example of service excellence for the entire team. "I was just doing what I thought was right," Ryan humbly said as he received congratulations from his colleagues. To Elon, however, Ryan was a living testament that empathy and kindness could thrive within any organization if nurtured properly. After completing the reform process, Elon shared his undercover experiment on social media, detailing his journey as a disguised homeless person and the lessons he learned from the banking system. The post quickly went viral, garnering millions of likes, comments, and shares. Elon did not shy away from highlighting the shortcomings he witnessed, but he also praised employees like Ryan and reaffirmed the bank's commitment to continuous improvement. "We cannot change the world if we overlook the most vulnerable," he wrote. This story is not just about banking. It's about the social responsibility of all businesses. We need to do better. The post sparked widespread discussion. Many praised Elon for his courage and humanitarian vision, while major corporations began facing mounting pressure to reevaluate their own social responsibilities. Even some competitor banks announced plans to study and adopt similar models to better serve their communities. The story of Elon Musk left a lasting mark not only on the financial industry but also delivered a powerful message. The success of a business is not solely measured by profits but by its positive impact on people's lives. The journey from a fictional homeless man to becoming the first customer of the bank allowed Elon to reflect on a vital aspect of leadership: understanding reality firsthand. Reforming the bank was just the beginning. For Elon, the greater mission was inspiring widespread change, not only in the financial sector but also in how businesses interact with society. This story serves as a reminder that in the modern world, kindness and empathy can still be the foundation for innovation and sustainable growth. Thank you for following this inspiring story about Elon Musk's extraordinary journey. If you enjoyed this content and want to explore more meaningful and fascinating stories, don't forget to like this video to support us in bringing you more engaging content. Share this story with your friends and family to spread the positive message of empathy and social responsibility. Subscribe to the Life Stories channel and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any valuable stories in the future. Join Life Stories in exploring inspiring tales and discovering new perspectives on the world. We're always here to share stories that touch your heart.